Good evening. It's Brad Huffines. I'm looking at the radar right now and giving you a weather update here in a couple of seconds for the Sandhills of North Carolina, which is where I happen to live. So that's what I'm going to be doing in a couple of seconds, looking at radar. First off, this is a website called Zoom Radar. And with Zoom Radar, what I'm doing is showing where the rain bands are moving and exactly what the storm is doing presently as far as the rain is concerned. So looking at Zoom Radar, what we're seeing is the eye of the storm is continuing to approach Wilmington, North Carolina. As the storm is moving to the west-northwest at around, it's moving very slowly actually right now. The latest hurricane advisory shows that the storm is moving, Hurricane Florence right now is moving toward the west-northwest. Sorry, I keep trying to get my map fixed here. Moving west-northwest at I think at about 8 to 9 miles an hour. And as the storm is moving toward the shoreline and slowing down, it's that slowing down that's going to cause the extremely heavy rain in south central and southeastern North Carolina, as well as the northeastern portions of South Carolina. So with that storm continuing to move toward the shoreline, the current motion is going to be slowing down as the storm approaches the shoreline. What you're seeing on radar is the storm, the circulation of the eye of the storm is continuing to move to the west-northwest. The first bands of real heavy rain now are approaching the Fayetteville area, just about to brush by to the east. But as the storm continues to develop this inland rain. Notice this is a large swath of rain that's going to happen when it moves inland. That large swath of rain is going to first right now blanket eastern North Carolina. And then as the rest of the storm moves in, all this energy and all this rain right now that's falling over the ocean is going to start blanketing portions of North Carolina and into South Carolina. The storm will continue to move inland, and as the storm moves inland and starts to slow way down, it's that slowing down of the storm that I'm going to be most concerned about, because when it slows down and starts dumping its rain, that's when we start seeing the real flooding problems around a large part of, especially eastern North Carolina. The good news for those of us that live in the Sandhills, when I say the Sandhills of North Carolina, that's basically this area right here. That's where I'm talking about, this Pinehurst, Southern Pines, Aberdeen area. But here's the center of circulation there. As the storm is circling right there and moving, expected to move near Wilmington, and then starting to jog just a bit south, we're going to remain on the right-hand side of the eye. And as long as we're in this quadrant of this storm, we're going to be seeing the tropical storm force winds. First off, it's going to be a hurricane as it's moving ashore. In fact, looking at the National Weather Service warnings right now, the latest watches and warnings for north central and south central North Carolina, as you see in the counties that are in kind of a deep crimson, those are tropical storm warnings. The tropical storm warnings right now continue in effect for the Rocky Mount area through Raleigh all the way to Sanford, into Moore County, Aberdeen, Southern Pines, and Pinehurst. Fayetteville is in a tropical storm warning, but we're just one county away in Fayetteville, for instance, from the counties that have a hurricane warning. So what that tells me is the winds are going to be blowing first from the northeast and eventually strong from the north. Hurricane force winds are likely just east of Fayetteville, but that also means that hurricane force wind gusts are possible in and around the town of Fayetteville itself. Excuse me. So with this hurricane force wind gust, that will knock down trees, take down quite a few power lines, and that's going to be first just an uncomfortable situation there. That's the wind. So the wind will start moving across the area tonight. Hurricane force winds just to the east, I-95 west, we start seeing tropical storm force winds. And once those tropical storm force winds are blowing extremely strong and the winds and rain start to pick up, that's going to cause a lot of the problems that we're going to see in the inland counties of North Carolina. So again, this is the rainfall amount. And when I put on this map, approximately where the Sandhills is, the Sandhills of North Carolina lie basically right around this area here. So that's basically where the Sandhills are. So that's why whenever this storm moves ashore, notice that we're right on the cusp of 15 to 20 inches of rain possible now. The rainfall intensity, the rainfall amounts are continuing to increase. That means some devastating flooding back into, I'm going to go back to a county map, some devastating flooding back into a large part of Cumberland County. When I zoom in and you see the county lines, devastating flooding across parts of Cumberland County into Robeson County, possibly Sampson County, Harnett County may see some pretty strong flooding. The good news is the terrain along the US 1 corridor usually doesn't allow for widespread flooding, but it doesn't mean that 15, 20 inches of rain won't cause flooding in areas that haven't seen floodwaters before. So that is actually entirely possible to see the floodwaters to move into sections that are possible for flash flooding and lots of issues around again, the US 1 corridor in and around 20 miles either side of it. So if you live in Southern Pines, Pinehurst, Aberdeen, for the most part, we usually don't see flood issues, but with that much rain, we may see some standing water, some rushing water, and some roadways that we're not necessarily used to. So one of the things I want to share with everyone that's listening to this, anywhere from Fayetteville to Rockingham to Sanford, even off to the east, I would strongly suggest that you just simply stay put. We'll likely lose a lot of power across a large chunk of central, southern, eastern North Carolina. And as you start to lose the power here, we're going to be seeing the winds blowing, the rains blowing, the rains falling. And this isn't going to be one of these storms that passes quickly. What I wanted to also show you is the timing on this hurricane. The timing on this storm is one of the things that's most problematic about this storm itself, because as the storm is moving ashore, it is moving very, very, very slowly. So there's the 2 p.m. Friday moving across the southern portion of North Carolina, then becoming a tropical storm sometime into 2 a.m. Saturday. So notice how long we are in that right-hand side of the eye situation. We are in this situation for basically from in a couple of hours when the first rain bands begin to move into Fayetteville, all the way up to about 2 a.m. on Sunday. So from midnight-ish, 2 a.m. on Friday to around 2 a.m. on Sunday, we're going to be seeing likely tropical storm force wind gusts, flooding rains, possible hurricane force wind gusts in Fayetteville and areas east, very strong tropical storm force wind gusts in the Sandhills up to 45, 50, 60 miles an hour. And that will start to likely cause some power outage problems in a large chunk of where we live in Moore County and surrounding counties as well. So those are really going to be some very strong and very serious issues that we're going to be seeing as this storm is moving inland. Again, the heaviest winds and surf, that's going to be along the shoreline. I'm not necessarily going to focus on that because I'm trying to focus on where we live in central North Carolina. So the forecast doesn't show anything that shows any improvement from what we talked about earlier. This is one of the computer models that I want to show you as far as where the storm looks like it may be going. But what I want you to notice in this storm is how many hours the rain bands are coursing across southern, central, and eastern North Carolina. Hour after hour after hour after hour after hour after hour after hour of rains moving in across the Sandhills and across the coastal plain area. And notice that low pressure system, that hurricane, when it moves inland and starts to stall, it's going to stall out, and as it stalls out, it's going to just dump all of its energy, dump its wind, dump its rain, cause the trees to fall down in some areas, cause the power outages to occur, and then it's going to continue to sit on top of us and rain and wind for almost 36 to 48 hours. That's going to be a long time. This is an unusual situation, very unusual situation for a storm this far north in latitude to stall. Almost always what we see this time of year is almost always see something like a jet stream that comes down and picks up these storms and takes them away very quickly. In this case, that's not what we have. We don't have any upper level winds to push this thing around. So basically it is just a spinning top. And as it is a spinning top, then it is continuing to dump its rain and wind here in the Sandhills and in eastern North Carolina, as well as northern portions of South Carolina. So the storm is moving along, and it is going to be dissipating very slowly. Eventually it will be picked up and move up through the Appalachians and up to the Northeast, but that may be Sunday or Monday before that happens. So from a historical perspective, this is how this one is acting completely differently. It is not the normal hurricane that passes through quickly, puts down its wind and rain, and moves on. So the likely arrival of tropical storm force winds, we're already seeing them just off to our east. Then they start to arrive in the Sandhills sometime around 10 o'clock or midnight. And then those tropical storm force winds are going to continue to on in with hurricane force winds as well, pushing in across basically from I-95 back to the east. This storm right now is only about a 100-mile-per-hour hurricane, so it's not what we would consider a major hurricane. It's what we would consider a Category 2 hurricane, which is strong enough to cause power outages, lots of wind damage, lots of uncomfortable weather situation, hours and hours of wind and rain and power outages. There will be people that are going to be affected by mostly flooding, also by some debris, down power lines, down trees, things that will happen because of the very strong winds. So the other part I want to read to you here is from the National Weather Service, the National Hurricane Center, their update. I had just refreshed that from 5 p.m. today. What it says is, once Florence moves farther inland over central South Carolina, the rapid weakening of the inner core will continue, but this storm speed of 5 knots or less, that's a very slow storm speed with heavy rains and very gusty winds. It will produce that storm surge along the coastline, a life-threatening flash flooding, hurricane force winds along the shoreline again, but for us it's going to be mostly the hours of tropical storm force winds and the rain. So this isn't going to be a storm that's devastating enough. It's not going to be the same kind of devastation or same kind of storm effect along the Sandhills as it is along the shoreline. And the shoreline, this is going to be a pretty good general average hurricane. Lots of wind, lots of rain. Inland, it's going to be a really good tropical storm. Lots of wind, lots of rain, and some flooding. So that's what we're looking at right now with this storm. I want to go right back to Zoom radar, the radar image that I'm showing you. Put on some of the watches, warnings, and advisories. There's a lot of watches and warnings going on right now. What you're seeing here is these are the hurricane warnings that are just to the east of I-95. This is a tropical storm warnings here. Tropical storm warnings inland. I'm going to click on the one for Moore County and tell you what that tropical storm warning means. Tropical storm warning, this is the one that is in effect for Moore County. Peak wind forecast is forecast to be around 20 to 30 miles per hour, gusts to around 45. I think the storm gusts are going to be stronger than that. The potential for winds higher than that are still going to be strong in the wind gusts. The potential impacts here are for some damage to roofing, siding materials, along with damage to porches, awnings, carports, sheds. A few buildings experiencing window, door, and garage door failures possible. Maybe it's what it says here because of the winds blowing directly at the garage doors. Mobile homes damage, especially if unanchored. That's the biggest issue with a lot of manufactured mobile homes, is if they're anchored properly. Unsecured lightweight objects become dangerous projectiles. Several large trees snapped or uprooted. A few roads become impassable because of debris. Flooding of the local rain is 8 to 12 inches. I think it may be closer to 15 to 20 in some spots. So the potential threat to life and property is the flooding rain and, of course, the winds with the debris that may be falling out of trees. So try to stay indoors. Try to stay in a safe place. Try to maintain your calm, because when the winds start blowing in the overnight hours and continue tomorrow and the rains are falling and you start hearing limbs fall, you start hearing things crash here and there, it's really a tough emotional thing sometimes. And what I want you to ask you to do is just try to remain calm. Understand that this isn't going to be the same devastation of the types of storms that we see along the shoreline, and not going to be the same devastation as massive hurricanes that hit other parts of the country, the categories 3s, 4s, and 5s. But what it does mean is we're going to be seeing some discomfort once the power begins to scatter and go out across the area, scatter through the area. It's going to feel warm and muggy in your house, and it's why we have asked you to have that 3-day supply of non-perishable food to be able to consume. Some roads may be blocked at times by debris, by limbs, by even trees that may fall. That's one of the reasons why we're asking you to stay off the roadways. Don't traverse out unless you absolutely have to. And of course, call 911 only in the event of an emergency, because the phone lines are going to be really heavily used. Once the power goes out, a lot of us are going to lose our ability to have internet access. So everyone that has a smartphone will be trying to access their carrier through their cell phone towers. Cell phone towers can only handle so much traffic on them. So what's going to happen to cell phone towers is they're going to start being overwhelmed by the number of people trying to look up things on the internet, trying to make phone calls, all the things that have to be done using the cell phone towers. So as those start to fill up, you'll start seeing some delays in the cell phone towers. You'll start seeing delays in getting your data across, trying to download pictures, trying to look at videos. One of the things that I ask you is try not to, I know that you're going to be tempted to, when the storm comes ashore and you start seeing winds and rain and things fall, you're going to be tempted to take great big pictures and big videos and post those videos to Facebook or wherever else. Those videos and pictures take up the bandwidth that people are trying to use to call 911. So just please try to avoid the phone unless it's an emergency. Try to only look up things online once all of us are only using cell phone towers. Try to use that sparingly because, again, all of us want to be relevant on Facebook, social media, wherever else. All of us want to send up these pictures and videos. Those are great big files, and they take up lots of space that the cell phone companies are trying to give to the customers. So that's how this is looking. That's the latest from me. The 11 o'clock advisory probably won't be much different. The storm is kind of now showing its hand. Once again, the storm is likely going to move ashore around this path here, and then start to slow down, and it's going to spin and spin and spin, blow and blow and blow as it's moving somewhere in this vicinity. By the way, when this spinning mass hits the ground and there's no steering currents, there's a possibility that the center could spin up this way. That possibility it could spin down this way. The storm could basically go anywhere once it sits and spins. It can wobble around. It can do a lot of things. But again, the biggest threat that we have in the Sandhills of North Carolina, as well as central northern North Carolina, right through this area, is the tropical storm force winds, hurricane force winds near Fayetteville, tropical storm force winds basically from Raleigh down to the Sandhills, and then the hours and hours of rain, which are going to be actually it's already kind of starting. We've seen our first tropical shower through the Raleigh area. We're about to see the first tropical storm come, the tropical part of the storm come through Cumberland County, and then once this mass begins to hit, that's when we see the rain. So what I want to show you too, when I zoom in on this radar, something I want to show you, something called training, radar training. Okay, I'm going to draw a dot on the map. I'll take a dot, clean off my other stuff. I'm going to draw a dot on the map. Let's draw the dot right about here. Hard to see it on this map. There's the dot that I've drawn on the map. Now, when I animate this radar, what I want you to see is comparing the radar to that dot. First off, I'll load up that radar. It's called wave training. It's basically when one line of storms moves over the same location time and time and time again. There's the dot. Notice when the rain begins, and it's continuing and continuing. And this entire mass of rain that you see right here on the screen, this entire mass of rain will continue to move over that same dot. This entire mass of rain is going to go over the same spot. So that spot may very well see 5 to 7 inches of rain in the next hour, while other areas on either side may see virtually nothing. So that's what's going to happen as these bands of rain start coming ashore in the rest of the hurricane, is you'll see that wave training. You'll see one spot underneath a long band of rain showers and wind. And then you'll see another one develop, and then another one, and then another one. And as that happens, then we're going to be seeing the heavy rains scattered across the area, very heavy rains, flash flooding. Then once that happens multiple times in multiple areas, that's when you start seeing the real heavy amounts of rain. So that's the biggest threat that we have across the Sandhills is the first day and a half of strong winds that'll take down some trees, that'll knock out some power lines, cause some debris issues. And then after that, we're going to be seeing the rain that will start and continue, and the rain's going to continue with the wind, and that will also weaken the root system, knock down a lot more trees, especially some of the ones that have leaf canopies that tend to knock down the entire tree and rip up the root system out of the ground. So that's the latest that I have for you here. Share this video, please. Those who live in the Sandhills, please share it on your Facebook page. Share it with as many folks as you can. I'm continue to do some updates for the Sandhills of North Carolina until I don't have power, which will probably happen sometime tomorrow. So we'll do some of these updates, but this is local information. This won't change much. Again, the last thing I haven't talked about is the chance of isolated tornadoes. These rain bands will frequently have spin-up tornadoes with short-lived tornado warnings. Some of these tornadoes could be very quick to happen. As they're very quick to happen, the warning time is very short on them. So you need to have a weather notification tool that will inform you very quickly. I have said this before, and I'm going to say it again on this one. When it comes to being notified, if you need something to reach out to you, and as people are reaching. I'm sorry, if you need an electronic way for someone to reach into your life and say, knock, 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 pay attention, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention, you don't want an app to do that. You want a phone call. That's why we have a WeatherCall at home, a service that has saved multiple lives in tornado events. Gary Dobbs, who has been watching this, is very well aware of what WeatherCall can do to save people's lives, to let people know what's happening. Gary went through a harrowing experience in a tornado in 2011 that it's amazing. But he survived. He got his weather call while he was on the air with actually right before he was on the air with me as I was talking to him, when the tornado came basically through the tree line and nearly took his life. So get a phone notification system like WeatherCall Services. WeatherCall.net is where you go to get that. It costs $9.95 a year, for Christ's sake. Take my word for it. Spend $10. Take my word for it. No one's getting rich here, believe me. And then put in your address, and when you are in one of the paths of the tornado warnings that are issued by the National Weather Service, if you're in the path of that storm, then we will actually give you a phone call, which gets your attention when your app will not get your attention. Do not trust your life. Please do not trust your life on something that you got for free. I can't state that enough. Do not stake your family's life on free, because if free fails, you don't really have anywhere to go. If something that you pay for fails, then at least you have a company that stands by in what they do. Apps, the free apps don't count. Do not, please, for goodness sake. You can use it for cool radar and cool things like this, but please do not stake your life on free. I can't beg you enough. I've seen that fail so many times. All right, weathercall.net. Sign up for WeatherCall at home. You can also get WeatherCall to go. It has a follow me feature, but again, no app, by the way, follows you accurately. There is no such thing as an app that follows you accurately. I just read an article from Apple and from Android that both showed that the phone manufacturers who have the cell phones, to preserve your battery, they will shut down those apps' ability to use the GPS chip. So no phone app will follow you accurately. Don't assume that it is. Get something that is for a fixed location, fixed service, so that whenever you're at that location, you know that you're going to be monitored at that location. That's what WeatherCall does. So anyway, that's the latest from me. Tomorrow morning, I'll be back on Star 102.5 live at 7, 7:30, 8, and 8:30 with Rich and Jenny. A great morning show. You can listen to it live if you live in the Sandhills on Star 102.5. You can also listen to it online. Just search Star 102.5, and you can listen to us do the live stuff. I'll probably stream a couple of those live conversations that we have. And I want to thank Amy Albert, who joined this just a minute ago. She is, I believe, the sales manager, one of the sales on the sales team, helps to lead the sales team at Star 102.5. She helped to get me in the door there to be able to serve the community during this hurricane event. To be able to have a broader place to have a local voice, a local expert talk about local stuff, since basically all the other experts are either on national television or are stuck in TV stations in Raleigh. So here's what you're looking at right now on radar. Pinehurst, Aberdeen, Southern Pines, right here, Rayford, Fort Bragg. First band of rain is moving through Salemburg, Roseboro, about to hit Tar Heel. First band of rain is going to be moving could brush Fayetteville. But again, this is the heavy rain. This is the gusty winds. May see tropical storm force wind gusts here. Already we've seen some reports of hurricane force winds already along the shoreline. And this is where the middle of the storm is, just offshore, with 100-mile-per-hour winds, sustained winds. And the storm is meandering ever so slowly. And it's that slow motion that's going to cause a relatively mundane hurricane when it comes to the world of hurricanes. This isn't like the Cat 5 Hurricane Gilbert. This isn't the Cat 4 Hurricane Hugo. It's a pretty middle-of-the-road hurricane that's going to cause lots of damage because it is moving so dadgum slowly, and it will dump so much rain. All right, thanks, guys, for listening into this. I sincerely appreciate you listening and taking part in this. Any questions that you may have while I'm here? Steve Biddle, by the way, I'm also on the AM station that Steve and I have had a lot of fun talking as well. It's been a lot of fun to going into radio station and doing things I haven't done in many years, talking on radio stations. Love local radio. Any questions? By the way, Bill Payer has said hello. Bill and I go way back. Love the man, an amazing man. Amy, thank you. It is frustrating sometimes to have local expertise and knowledge, not have an avenue in which to share with the people. And that's been one of the biggest challenges in this, is trying to find that good information and the platform to share good information with people that need to hear it, instead of having to filter information through TV stations in places like Raleigh or Florence, South Carolina, or Greensboro, North Carolina. This is just for us. All right, guys, any questions? You can feel free to, those who know me can call me, text me. Those who don't can send me Facebook messages, and I try to get to all of them. Thanks, guys.